I'm Adam from Film Training Manitoba. I just wanted to thank everyone for signing up for Smart Start COVID-19 Cleaning Sanitation for Media Productions. That's the 2-hour session that we're having this afternoon. I want to start off by thanking Leslie Oswald, who has done fantastic work instructing but also developing this course. This was a huge undertaking and a huge ask for FDM and our partners to make of Leslie. And again, Leslie, we cannot thank you enough for all of your work. I should also make mention that we worked with a partner, the Manitoba Tourism Education Council, which is a very large sector council, and FTM is a part of a program through the government of Manitoba, where we provide training for individual industries, and we are able to work with other sector councils, and we are able to access some programming support and partnership support from MTech. So I again want to thank MTech and Leslie for working jointly with FTM and all of the partners for conducting this course. And those partners are IATSE 856, the DGC, On-Screen Manitoba, ACTRA, Doc Canada, City of Winnipeg, Manitoba Film and Music, and Province of Manitoba had a staff member as well helping coordinate, organize, review what we put together today. And I want to make mention, it's been very good working with Leslie. She's an experienced instructor, has done lots of instruction with us with FTM, and is an experienced line producer and production manager. And so this has been a very good undertaking. Post-course, likely next week, we're going to be sending PDFs of certificates of attendance. So I'm going to ask at the end of Leslie's presentation, which is running about an hour or 70 minutes or 80 minutes, we're going to ask all of the participants in the chat section of Zoom to write their first and their last names as they'd like it to appear on a certificate of attendance. But right now, do not enter anything into the chat. And we're going to ask just in general, if people will not enter questions into the chat section, we're going to ask during the question and answer period at the end of this session if people can ask directly using the video link. And if everyone right now, I see most of you have muted their mics, if everyone can mute their mics. And it might be also a good idea to mute your video, just as a bit distracting for the instructor to be doing this presentation and people's faces popping up. But it's always nice to see people, but in this instance, that's a bit challenging. So if everyone can just mute their microphone and the video portion, but we do want you paying attention. And I am going to ask if everyone can make sure that they have a piece of paper and a pen to write down notes and also write down your questions, because we are going to open it up for a very robust question and answer period at the end. And that's the portion of this that's been very interesting, to have people sharing and providing information. And one thing that's also important to note is it's very important that we all work collaboratively and share information. In the last number of sessions, we've been having people come forward and doing that very thing. So given the challenge that we're under with COVID-19, it's going to be very important that people share information and reach out to each other. Now, one thing I do want to make mention, we've had lots of people taking these sessions. They've been filled to the brim for the last 4 days. Leslie's contract is strictly just to instruct this course and to develop this course. So after this is over today, Leslie is not actually going to be the information person for COVID-19. It's just not going to be possible to have her fielding questions from everyone in the industry. So in fairness to Leslie and in fairness for all the work that she has done, we aren't going to have her, and she's not contractually obligated to follow up regarding COVID questions. If you do have COVID related questions, Safe Work Manitoba is an education body that exists to provide education towards safe workplaces. And you can certainly ask Safe Work. On-Screen Manitoba has also done a lot of work providing and developing protocols with producers and with the community. So On-Screen Manitoba is also a very good point of contact to potentially contact about questions. And then of course, anyone that are members of their unions, IATSE 856, the DGC, ACTRA, these are all organizations that can provide information regarding COVID. If anyone has suggestions or ever wants to touch base with me at FTM, I am always open to do that. And I always enjoy talking to members of the community. So feel free at any time to contact me or message me. And then finally, I do want to thank Mauro from Film Training Manitoba, Mauro Ferrito, who's done tremendous work doing all the technical outputs for all this. So I do want to thank Mauro. He's smiling in the corner there. Thank you, Mauro. And also I wanted to thank Allison Bio from FTM, who has been taking all of these registrations. We've had huge amounts of people signing up. And then also I want to thank OnScreen for sharing this information, and thank all the unions again for sharing this information and sending people our way to do this. This has been a very collaborative effort. And thank you again to anyone. And I'll reconnect with everybody near the end and give instructions again when we get into the Q&A. So take it away, Leslie. Did I miss anything, Leslie?
I don't think so.
Okay,
thanks.
Very good.
So welcome here. Our agenda today, what are infectious viruses? COVID-19, the symptoms, cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, proper hand washing, masks, and some procedures that you might put into place in your area that you work in. Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health Act legislation. This legislation applies to you, applies to all of us. Employers need to provide and maintain a safe workplace. And under the legislation, supervisors need to ensure workers perform their duties in accordance with procedures as well as safety and health laws. Workers need to report hazards. And I think this also, in this instance, and what we're talking about today, means if you see somebody not wearing their mask when they're supposed to, or doing something that is not following the procedures or best practices, it's first your duty, all of us, to say, hey, put your mask on, or hey, you forgot to wash your hands, or whatever it may be. And if it's repeated, workers need to report. These are hazards. This is our health we're talking about, and not wearing your mask when you're supposed to is a hazard. The only thing that will keep us working is you, the individual, doing their part. The goal of this cleaning program is to increase the health and safety of all crew members returning to work in media productions. We're going to talk about best practices that every one of us can adopt into our daily routine to reduce the spread of contagious disease. I saw an item in CNN the other day that I want to share. A group of 239 international scientists wrote an open letter to the World Health Organization and other agencies explaining the airborne nature of the virus. The best vaccine against fear is knowledge.
Never mind.
Empowering people to take care of themselves, wrote Donald Milton, a professor of environmental health at the University of Maryland. The virus is carried on droplets that come out of people's mouths and noses. Larger droplets fall onto surfaces and can be picked up, then carried to the eyes, nose, or mouth. Larger droplets fall onto surfaces. That's why regular hand washing and surface cleaning is crucial. Smaller droplets, however, can stay in the air for longer and be inhaled deeply into the lungs. Studies have indicated that the virus can survive in the air for 3 hours and for up to 3 days on some surfaces. And scientists also know the virus-laden droplets are released not just by sneezes or coughs, but also by talking and possibly by breathing. Shouting, singing, and panting during exercise are thought to release higher amounts of droplets. A lot of people crowded close together indoors, what is poorly ventilated, that is what drives the pandemic, Milton said. Why wearing a mask is important is because it blocks the aerosols at their source when it is easy to block them. I'm going to read that again because I think this is at the center of what we're trying to talk about today and what we want to do in moving forward in the industry. Why wearing a mask is important is because it blocks the aerosols at their source when it is easy to block them. So the respiratory infections, what are infectious diseases? Respiratory infections, infections of the nose, throat, upper airways, and lungs. Most common upper respiratory infections include sore throat and the common cold. Other viral respiratory infections include influenza, pneumonia, and coronavirus. COVID-19 is the infectious disease caused by the most recently discovered coronavirus. What are the symptoms? Most common symptoms are fever, dry cough, and extreme fatigue. Other symptoms that are less common and may affect some individuals include aches and pains, nasal congestion, headache, conjunctivitis, chronic kidney disease, sore throat, diarrhea, loss of taste or smell, or a rash on skin, or discoloration of fingers or toes. These symptoms are usually mild and begin gradually. Some people become infected, but only have very mild symptoms. Some are asymptomatic, no symptoms at all. Most people recover from the disease without needing hospital treatment. Around 1 out of every 5 people who gets COVID-19 becomes seriously ill and develops difficulty breathing. Heard a story the other day about a young man, 24-year-old young man, with no pre-existing conditions that contracted COVID-19. He said he spent the worst 24 days of his life. So here's a young, strong man, obviously becoming gravely ill. So no one is immune to this. Older people and those with underlying medical problems like high blood pressure, heart and lung problems, diabetes, or cancer are at higher risk of developing serious illness. COVID-19 is most commonly spread person to person. An infected person from an infected person through respiratory droplets generated with an infected person when an infected person coughs or sneezes. So what do we do about that? We wear non-medical masks and or face shields. Close, prolonged personal contact, such as touching or shaking hands. So there's no fist pumps or elbow bumps anymore. And for example, if the lighting team is setting up a 10K, they need to be close together to set that 10K up safely. So they need to wear their masks, they need to set up the light, and then they need to walk away and talk about, oh, what happened on the weekend, or catch up on news when they're in a place where they can safely physically distance. Touching something with the virus on it, then touching your mouth, nose, eyes, or mask before washing your hands or using a hand gel sanitizer. So frequently touched surfaces must be cleaned frequently. Insurance coverage. I wanted to mention insurance coverage just so everybody knows the amount that producers, studios, and financiers have in the game right now. It is critical to note that COVID-19 claims will not be covered on production policies moving forward. This applies to production losses, costs to production due to covered cast member catching COVID-19, or costs to production due to COVID-related civil authority shutdown, and liability losses, suits brought against production due to COVID-19. Productions that were insured prior to COVID-19 will continue to have that coverage. But moving forward, no. There are efforts underway in the US and Canada to seek a government-funded plan to provide coverage for COVID losses, but this is likely some time away. So moving forward, Canadian producers will not have any coverage for COVID-19, and with some insurers, they are also stating communicable diseases as not being covered. That's influenza, that's a cold. This may change in the future, but at present, that is the situation. So I'm sure if you were on the crew, you remember this. If you weren't on the crew, many of you will have heard some gruesome details. In the fall of 2019, a project shooting in town was hit with the norovirus, winter vomiting bug. 46 crew members in 2.5 days reported being ill. This virus spread very quickly, mostly by people touching common items. The advice to stop the spread received from community infection control was clean commonly touched items in work area. Stay home when you are ill, fever, coughing, chills. Wash your hands often and correctly. The production survived by upgrading and bringing in dailies, and the infection passed quickly. As we know, this would not have been the case if it was COVID-19. Surfaces frequently touched with hands are the most likely to be contaminated. These include doorknobs, tools, equipment, chairs. These also include your T-zone, eyes, nose, and mouth, and your mask, face shield, or other protective gear. The goal with any protective measure when fighting a virus is to mitigate risk, lower the odds. Nobody can eliminate the odds, but all of these best practices will mitigate the risk substantially. So what is the difference between cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting? Cleaning refers to the removal of visible dirt, grime, and impurities by using soap or detergent and water. So if you look at these muddy boots, and I was to get all the mud off of them and clean them up, maybe give them a little shine, they would be clean, but they would not be disinfected or sanitized. They could possibly still be contaminated. So cleaning does not kill germs, but just helps remove them from the surface, which lowers their numbers and the risk of spreading infection. Sanitizing reduces the number of microorganisms to a safe level. Sanitizing is performed after cleaning. Unclean surfaces will reduce the effectiveness of sanitizing. So if you spill a bunch of spaghetti sauce on your kitchen counter, you need to first clean that spaghetti sauce up, maybe with a paper towel. And then what you have left is a residue. That's what you're going to put the sanitizer on, and then wipe that away. So all surfaces that come into contact with food must be cleaned and sanitized regularly. When to use a sanitizing solution? Surfaces, objects that would be sanitized and not disinfected. A prop that touches your hands or mouth, like a glass or a musical instrument. Any food contact surface, so cutting board, plate, food containers. An example of a sanitizing solution for surfaces that come into contact with food is 1 tablespoon of household chlorine bleach with 1 gallon of water. Disinfecting refers to using chemicals to kill germs on surfaces. This is most effective after surfaces are cleaned. Both steps are important to reduce the spread of infection. Use only approved hard surface disinfectants that have a drug identification number, the DIN. A DIN is an 8-digit number given by Health Canada that confirms the disinfectant product is approved and safe for use in Canada. How to clean and disinfect. When wiping down surfaces and objects, use a clean, dry cloth or paper towel saturated with a disinfectant spray and with the disinfectant spray, don't just pump the bottle once and think, well, that's done. Make sure that the cloth or the paper towel is wet to the touch. And the same with wipes. Make sure that they're wet to the touch so that they haven't dried out at all while they've just been sitting in the container. So bleach and water can also be used to disinfect, but the concentration is higher. So you can make a solution by adding 3 tablespoons of bleach to 1 gallon of water. Health Canada has a list of disinfectants for use against COVID-19. When to use hand sanitizers. Washing your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds will reduce the spread of infection to yourself and to others. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers are a good alternative, but should not be used when preparing or packaging food or after using the washroom. You need to wash your hands if you're preparing or packaging food, and you need to wash your hands after using the bathroom. And check out Health Canada's website for sanitizers or disinfectants. They have a list of approved products. What should you know? When using cleaning products, sanitizers, or disinfectants, check the expiry date of products. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. Note the difference in the mix. The sanitizer had 1 tablespoon per gallon. The disinfectant had 3 tablespoons per gallon. So it's very important to get that mix correct. Never mix cleaning products. For example, ammonia and bleach. I think if anybody's done that, they know what happens. It can lead to irritated airways, respiratory problems, burns to skin, eyes, nose, throat, and lungs. Be sure to take the appropriate precautions when using and storing chemicals for cleaning, sanitizing, or disinfecting. And refer to the safety data sheets. They either come with a product or you can look them up online. Proper hygiene. It is everybody's responsibility to maintain good hygiene. Wash hands frequently using running water and soap, or use a hand sanitizer when water is not available. Cough or sneeze into a disposable tissue or your elbow. Tissues must be discarded into the garbage immediately after use, and not put in your pocket or on a ledge somewhere. Hands should be immediately washed or sanitized. Let's think about what would happen if instead of that Kleenex, you sneezed into your hand. Let's imagine that those droplets that attached to your hands were paint. You go about your day and everything you touch now is marked with paint. As other people move through the room, if they touch anything that you have touched, they have paint on their hands. Anything they subsequently touch has paint on it. You can see how quickly and efficiently this virus can spread. So what can we do? Well, in this case, after you blow your nose, throw the tissue into the garbage and sanitize your hands. Sharing of food and personal items should not be permitted. When to wash your hands. After using the washroom, in bold print, it's an imperative that you wash your hands properly with soap and water after using the washroom. Before and after eating meals, before and after eating substantials or snacks, before and after a smoke break. Remember, in those 3, eating meals, eating substantials, or smoking, you are touching your mouth. So make sure you sanitize your hands before you do that. When entering or leaving an area, for example, moving from offset to onset or entering or leaving the production office, after coughing, sneezing, or blowing your nose, after touching your face, your T-zone, eyes, nose, mouth, or your face mask or face shield, before and after handling shared tools or equipment, when putting on or taking off your face mask and other personal protective gear, when handling materials from the public or from a different department. A lot of washing of hands. If water and soap is not available, hand sanitizer is an effective alternative, except for after using the washroom. Correct hand washing. Wet your hands with clean running water. Apply soap and lather well. Rub your hands vigorously for at least 20 seconds. Remember to scrub all surfaces, backs of your hands, wrists, between your fingers, your fingernails, and your thumbs. Studies say that the most often missed areas when you clean your hands are your fingertips and your thumbs. And coincidentally, that is the area of your hand that is most likely to be touching things. Rinse well with hands pointed towards the sink. Dry your hands with a single-use paper towel. And then mimic this method when using hand sanitizer. The hand sanitizer should be thought of as running water. So put a good glob on and mimic this method of washing your hands so that you're covering your fingertips and your thumbs and the backs of your hands. So we're gonna watch a video on how to do this. So you see they go after the palms. I think somebody with rhythm should come up with a little a little song so we don't have to sing happy birthday twice. So interlacing at the back, so getting between those fingers. These are the fingertips. Thumbs, very important, fingertips and thumbs. The backs of your hands. And we're done. Good job. So this is the most effective way to wash your hands, with soap and water, but also when you're using hand sanitizer. How to properly wear a mask. Wearing a cloth mask. Wash hands. Pick up the mask by the ties. Don't touch the front or the back of the mask. Place over nose and mouth and secure. If there's a metallic strip across the nose, pinch and adjust for full coverage to ensure no gaps. Wash hands. Do not touch the mask. When you remove a cloth mask, you remove the mask using the ties or loops. Do not touch the front or the inside. Neither. Try not to touch the mask quite a bit at all. Holding the ties, fold in half so that the side that touches your face is on the inside. Put in a paper bag to wash later and wash your hands. So you're specifically folding this cloth mask this way in case you do want to reuse it or in a situation where you could reuse it. You know the side of the mask that was touching your face. So when you pull that mask out of your bag or Ziploc that you put it in, take it by the ties again and carefully put it on so you're not touching the front of the mask that may be contaminated. If you're using a disposable mask, wash or sanitize, but check the mask to make sure that it's not damaged. So inspect it for holes or anything. And make sure that the dark side or the colored side of the mask is on the outside. Put it over your nose and mouth. Attach the loops. There are things online that I've seen that if those ear loops are, if your ears are sensitive and it starts bothering you, you can click something onto it and it holds it at the back, takes the pressure off your ears. Make sure that your mouth and nose are covered. So in this particular case, it's a little accordion thing and you can pull it up under your chin. Press a metallic strip so there's no gaps and try not to touch. Make sure that if your mask gets wet or dirty, that you change it. It's lost its effectiveness. So when you're taking it off, wash or sanitize your hands. Take it off by the loops, discard it, dispose of it safely in the proper receptacle, and sanitize or wash your hands again. There are some don'ts to wearing a mask. Don't reuse masks that are moist, dirty, or damaged. If you are going to reuse your mask, one, make sure you haven't put it down anywhere. It should be put into a bag and should be on your person somewhere, in a Ziploc in your pocket, but do not put it down in the set anywhere. Don't touch the mask if you're wearing it, and don't hang it, the mask on your neck or your ears, or your head, or your wrist, or your elbow. It's supposed to be on your mouth and your nose. Don't leave your mask within the reach of others. This is a big one. It's your mask, keep it with you. Don't wear it loose, and don't remove it to talk to somebody. That's kind of stops the effectiveness of it. And don't share your masks. How to clean. If you're using cloth masks, you probably go through 3, 4, maybe 5 a day, depending on the conditions. So you can machine wash them with your regular laundry at the warmest possible washer and dryer setting. I'm saying warmest possible so that you don't actually shrink the mask. If you're going to hand wash it, dilute laundry detergent in hot water, scrub the mask so it gets clean. Soak it for 20 minutes, rinse, and allow it to dry completely. in air dry, in direct sunlight, or throw it in the dryer. But make sure it's completely dry before you wear it. Physical distancing. Whenever possible, maintain 2 meters, 6 feet of distance around you. When unable to maintain that distancing, non-medical equipment must be used. These are face masks, face shields, and gloves. Remember, gloves come, I think, with a warning. Obviously, you want to be wearing gloves, particularly if you're cleaning a lot with the disinfectant to protect your hands. But if you are using gloves, the only area that is safe from the virus are your hands. Otherwise, the gloves on the outside must be treated the same as your bare hands when thinking about when to hand wash or sanitize. Have hand sanitizer at entrances and exits. Now, try to make traffic flow one way if possible. This is a little easier in a construction shop, in a stationary location or the production office, but in a location where you're moving all the time, obviously the best would be one way in for equipment, one way out for equipment, one way in for people, one way out for people. That's not always going to be possible, but one way is definitely a good practice. If there's a bottleneck of entrance exit possibilities, then should probably post signs about that or have a person there just directing traffic. Discourage congregations of people. Use signage, posters, floor markings. Crew members must adhere to hygiene and distance protocols. Deliveries are received by designated crew only and are cleaned with a disinfectant wipe prior to distribution. This includes all deliveries from outside of the working area. So not just deliveries from outside of the production, but also deliveries between the production office and set, for example, or set in the production office, should be cleaned and before distributing to around the office or around set. What's one of the goals? We need to stop cross-contamination. So cross-contamination is the process by which bacteria or other microorganisms are unintentionally transferred from one substance or object to another with harmful effect. So if we're shooting in an office, and maybe the office has a boardroom, a couple of private offices, and a general work area, and we start the day and say, this is our set, our magic invisible door is at the entrance to this office space. So if everybody, before going into that space, washes and sanitizes their hands, and everyone wears a mask properly, and inside of that area, frequently touched areas have been cleaned, all the equipment that is being used in that area has been disinfected, then everything in that area is now clean. You're clean. You've got your hands washed and you've got a mask on. The area you're working in and the equipment you're using are clean and disinfected. So now that area is safe to work, and you have to maintain that area to be safe to work. So anything that goes out through that invisible door isn't allowed to come back in again until it's been disinfected, until the frequently touched areas have been wiped, until that person has sanitized their hands and put on a mask. So that's cross-contamination. If everyone looks out for themselves to help minimize the chances of getting or spreading the virus, we will all be working in a safer environment. Producer policy. Every project that you work on will have a COVID-19 policy. Read it, understand it, and if you have any questions, ask them. When you sign your deal memo, you are agreeing to follow the procedures outlined in that document. So this is a very important piece of the puzzle, that everybody has to buy in to keep COVID-19 from spreading. So the COVID-19 policies as set out by the producer, as set out by the Manitoba government, set out by your unions if they have policy, read information, understand the information. If you have any questions, ask, and follow best practices. So cleaning, sanitizing, or disinfecting procedures. Now we're going to talk about different departments. So the following are ideas, a jumping off place. Every key needs to ask themselves, how do I apply best practices to my crew? They need to look at their department, the equipment they use, the duties their department is responsible for, and implement these best practices into their daily routines. Only you know everything your crew does in the day. What we have been talking about today needs to become habit, second nature. We're going to have to be patient with each other, not point fingers, but also not be afraid to remind each other to sanitize their hands, or put on a mask, or physically distance. And we don't have to do it in a judgmental way. If someone's forgotten to put their mask when they walk into the clean zone, a quick reminder, hey, mask. Or if you see they haven't washed their hands coming in to eat lunch, hey, buddy, you better wash your hands over there. So, and if somebody's creeping up in a conversation, it's a very easy thing to do. You back up or say, whoa, 6 feet. And we cannot be offended if we are the ones being reminded. We have to look after each other. Production office. Again, these are ideas only. Offices should be arranged so when a person comes into the office, it is obvious where the hand sanitizer is. It is obvious the path they need to take to get to wardrobe or to get to the art department. There isn't a bad seat. The office and private offices have been arranged so that every seat adheres to physical distancing. If you're going into the office, make sure you don't move the chairs. And please watch that you only touch what you absolutely need to touch. Delivery of parcels and mail must be wiped with a disinfectant cloth or wipe when received and hands washed after handling. Request contactless delivery to maintain distancing. There are a lot of FedEx parcels that come and go from the office. Talk to your FedEx delivery person on the procedures you have developed for your production office and ask what procedures they are following. And remember, these are packages too that are going between departments, between set and circus, any packages that are coming into your clean area. Craft service, designate a PA to keep craft tables stocked and sanitized. All snacks must be prepackaged. Lunches should be prepackaged and handled by a designated person. Use signs and floor markings to establish walking routes, one way if possible. Limit people allowed to Xerox. Designate one person. Paperwork should be electronic whenever possible and watermarked. Accounting can access programs now that allow for paperless petty cash, POs, deal memos. Distribution of AD paperwork and scripts should be electronic and watermarked. Watermarking is important. I know personally I like my script hard copy. I like to see the paper. I like to turn the pages. I like to write notes on it. But it should have my name on it. So I know it's mine. I don't leave it around. And if I did forget it someplace, nobody else is going to touch it because they know that it belongs to me. They might yell and say, don't leave your script hanging around. Locations department. All sets should be cleaned and disinfected by a cleaning service prior to on and off set crew entering. So prior to construction, paint, sets, dressers, entering that area, it needs to be cleaned by a professional cleaning service. Location departments are responsible for cleaning and disinfecting their equipment and frequently touched surfaces, like flap doors on tents or director's chairs, when they're setting up lunch cover and craft tables. Excuse me. The ongoing cleaning should fall on the departments that take over that equipment. For example, craft table person and lunch cover person keep their areas maintained throughout the day. A separate cleaning service should be hired for continual cleaning of washrooms and frequently touched spots, such as light switches, elevator buttons. I don't know quite where the line's going to fall, but I think one good rule of thumb in terms of cleaning is if you've brought it to work, if you carry it around, like your ditty bag, your personal items, if you're putting it in your truck at night, then it's yours to clean. If it's other areas or other things that are in a location, like the elevator button, like the light switches, like the washrooms, then it's somebody else's business to clean those. A separate cleaning service should be hired for continual cleaning of washrooms. Locations needs to consider the additional space needed for crew to maintain physical distancing requirements. I think size of locations will be one, but I think size of the lunchroom will be a big one. And the closeness of the lunchroom to the set so that people can walk to lunch will also be a big one. Scouting as much as possible should be done virtually. Perhaps the use of 360 cameras or rough floor plans that go along with the pictures. Tech scouts, if required, should be done in small, manageable groups, and the location should be considered contaminated. Non-medical masks and or face shields should be worn. Be considerate of the space. Don't touch anything. Don't lean on the kitchen counter or sit on the furniture. It's always hard to get into a person's home, a person's business, but it's going to be harder now. And tech scouts are often the first time a homeowner or a business owner or a restaurant owner sees a group of us at the same time. It's extremely important that that survey goes without a hitch, that nobody has their face mask under their nose, that nobody's going around and picking up little knickknacks or take a look at them. So be considerate of the space. Don't touch anything. Don't lean on anything. Don't sit on the furniture. Locations show and tell should be done virtually whenever possible, and frequent washing of hands and using of sanitizer. Wardrobe. Only allow essential crew and actors present at fittings. Thorough hand washing must be done prior to entering area and before actors arrive for fitting. Dressing facilities should be arranged to allow for physical distancing of 2 meters whenever possible, unless measuring actors for costumes. Wardrobe must wear face masks and or face shields when working with actors. Florida Atlantic University tested 4 different cloth masks. Stitched masks with 2 layers of fabric, a commercial cone mask, a folded handkerchief, and a bandana. The stitched mask with 2 layers of fabric performed the best, with droplets traveling only 2.5 inches, which is good news for all of us. But I also think when any crew will be close to actors, they should consider wearing a mask and a face shield. So hair and makeup, wardrobe, sometimes when the camera assistant's putting down tape marks, a sound, putting a radio mic on, wardrobe, doing fittings. 2.5 inches is good for the crew. It's good news, but I think with actors, we need another layer of protection. Wardrobe should be cleaned and left in a bag for 72 hours before wearing, whenever possible. Wash your hands after handling. For thrift store purchases and other secondhand items, launder used items and dry on the hottest setting possible. For items that cannot be laundered, cleaned, and sanitized, isolate items in a separate bin for at least 72 hours before placing on racks or trying on actors. In yesterday's session, Corby was telling us that he's bought a chlorinating fogger that is apparently safe and you go into a room, basically fog it, and it is safe when it falls on things, on fabrics and things like that. So that might be something that as an industry we look into a little bit. The circus. Day player rooms must be cleaned and disinfected at the end of each day. Recommend a cleaning service person be added to the circus area to perform cleaning tasks, including all day rooms and bathrooms throughout the day. Post signage in each room that acts as a cleaning checklist. This should include the time the room was cleaned. When cleaning rooms, there must be a labeled cleaning caddy where cleaning supplies are stored, specific for the bathroom, and a separate labeled cleaning caddy for the living space. We need to set up that invisible wall between the bathroom and the living space. Bathrooms should be stocked with paper towels, no cloth towels, and a trash can and a separate trash can in the living space. Bathrooms must be thoroughly disinfected. Cleaning cloths and sponges used in the bathrooms must not be used to clean the living area. Separate, again, you've got to separate areas. Bathroom stuff in the bathroom, living area stuff in the living room. Hair and makeup. Spaces between chairs and sinks must be 2 meters apart. It's imperative that actors feel comfortable and safe while in hair and makeup. You must maintain a distance from other stylists while an actor is in the chair. I know hair and makeup has done this forever, so this part is probably not new to them. All chairs, tools, and equipment must be cleaned and sanitized between each use. Makeup brushes, hair dryers, straighteners may be shared between day players, but must be cleaned and sanitized prior to using on the next actor. Use disposable makeup kits and applicators whenever possible. The sharing of tools and equipment is not permitted. Hair and makeup personnel should wear gowns, smocks, or aprons to cover street clothing, and these items should be laundered nightly. Stylists must wear a mask, and I would suggest a face shield, and wash hands regularly with soap and water. Only touch surfaces, objects that you're currently using for the actor. I think it put the actor more at ease if they can kind of only see your hands and you're not fiddling with something behind them. Establish hand washing practices that include washing hands before and after every sessions, such as hair and makeup. And actors as well don't get a free ride. Actors should wash their hands before and after each session. Picture vehicles. Vehicles must be cleaned and disinfected prior to coming to set. Picture vehicle drivers must frequently wash their hands or use hand sanitizer before getting into the vehicle. They must wear masks while on set. And again, if there's a situation where they think they will be getting within a foot of, or 2 feet or 3 feet of an actor, they should have a face mask as well. A face shield, I mean. Anyone who drives the vehicle before the actor gets back in must wipe and disinfect frequently touched points. So if the scene is an actor driving up and parking in front of a house, the director calls action, the actor drives up, parks, gets out, goes into the house. Director says cut. AD calls back to ones. Picture vehicle driver jumps in the car and backs it up. When they get out of the car to turn it back to the actor, they must disinfect whatever they've touched, including the outside door handle. The actor might not touch it when they get into the vehicle, but they certainly might touch it when they get out. Security and unit moves. Unit move drivers and security personnel should wash their hands with soap and water at the start of their shift. They should use disinfectant wipes on their walkie and cell phone at the start of the shift and regularly throughout the shift. Security and unit move drivers should each receive a kit that contains the materials they need to clean frequently touched areas properly. Everything that is touched during the shift needs to be disinfected. They should be advised of protocols at the start of every shift. So at every shift, there needs to be a safety meeting where they receive their kit if they don't already have one, and they are advised of the protocols that need to happen during that shift. Unit move drivers should disinfect their trucks when they complete the move, wipe down the surfaces that they've touched. Frequent hand washing is a must, or hand sanitizing. Limit touching of surfaces, objects, unless required. If you don't touch it, you don't have to disinfect it. Transport. All transport drivers should wear face masks and/or face shields at all times due to ventilation issues and violation of physical distancing requirements. All production vehicles must include disinfectant wipes and be cleaned daily and on an ongoing basis and after each new passenger. Keep hand sanitizers available in the vehicle for passengers and a separate one up front for the driver. High density transport to be used only as a last resort. So we hope our location friends can get us lunch covers within walking distance. Actors and crew are required to wear masks and or face shields in vehicles. Establish end of shift vehicle wipe down routines. Tech trucks. Upon arrival, rented trucks need to be disinfected prior to equipment being loaded. A designated cleaning service should be responsible for this. Lighting and grip technicians. Personal tools should throughout the day, personal tools used throughout the day must be wiped with a disinfectant wipe after each use and at the end of the workday. Frequently touched areas, lighting, grip equipment, first aid props, camera equipment must be frequently sanitized or disinfected. Remember, you're cleaning the areas you touched. You do not have to clean the entire piece of equipment every time. And do not touch your T-zone, mouth, nose, eyes, or mask. If you do, immediately use hand sanitizer or wash your hands. And remember to wear your mask properly at all times. Sound technicians placing body mics onto actors must wear face masks, and I would suggest face shields. Hands must be properly washed prior to touching mics and actors. Body mics must be disinfected before and after each use. Walkies, I would think most productions will do that, do this with all equipment that is handed to a crew member that is meant to be used throughout the show. So walkies, batteries, and a charger and a headset will be signed out at the start of the show. The crew person's name will be put on the equipment, and each crew member will be responsible for sanitizing, charging, and taking care of that unit. If equipment breaks, it should be put into a bagging and handed to the correct AD. This system, I would think, could also be used for face masks, and probably a high-vis vest will be handed out at the start of the show. People's names should be put on those, or you should put your name on them. And those are yours for the show. You need to take care of them. You need to sanitize them. Equipment required on set needs to be cleaned and disinfected before and after each use. Remember, clean the areas that you touch. Props must be cleaned, sanitized if coming into contact with food or the performer's mouth, or disinfected prior to the actors touching them. When sets and props are moved or removed from set, if they've gone through that magic invisible door, the parts of the set or the props must be disinfected with a clean cloth. So again, if you've touched it, let's say you've picked up that armchair with the armrests and you've taken it out of the clean zone, before you bring it back, that needs to be wiped so that it's clean when it comes back into the zone. Construction, paint, greens, set storage. Shared equipment and tools must be cleaned and disinfected frequently after each use. Furniture and other soft goods must be cleaned and left for 72 hours before going to set. Any hard surfaces, such as armrests or tabletops, must be sanitized or disinfected. Tabletops usually sanitized, chairs disinfected. If an item cannot be sanitized or disinfected before an actor touches it, it cannot be used. So if you can't sanitize it or disinfect it, there's no reason to buy it, order it, or bring it into a show and tell, because it will not be used. Equipment and projects must be set up to maintain physical distancing. So if it's the co-op shop, the equipment needs to be set up so that workers can physically distance naturally with no problems. If painters are doing a big project and they're painting 50 or 100 2x4s, and they've got them all laid out on the floor, they need to figure out how their painters will physically distance during that project. Catering. This is one way this might work, and I want to emphasize that this is one way. Order forms will be sent out the week prior to ordering breakfast, to order breakfast and lunch. The form will have a limited selection to choose from. Might be that only crew with pre-calls get breakfast, who knows? Breakfast and lunch. Breakfast and lunch will be pre-packaged in the catering truck, placed on a pickup table outside the truck for the designated lunchroom catering person to transport to lunch cover. The crew will enter the lunchroom, wash or sanitize their hands, pick up their prepackaged meal, eat in the lunchroom, dispose of the excess food, and place the container and cutlery in the designated bins. The crew will wash or sanitize their hands when exiting the lunchroom. Locations will set up the lunch cover and sanitize tables and chairs prior to breakfast. After that, catering crew will maintain the area. If lunch cover cannot accommodate entire crew, and our locations people haven't been lucky, we will have to have two sittings. The 2-meter distancing must be maintained. Coffee, water, and a limited selection of drinks will be served. If possible, any liquid dispenser should be foot pumped and have a spout guard to prevent containers coming into contact with the spout. So want to prevent your reusable water bottle. We don't want to prevent you using a reusable water bottle, but the spout of that cannot come in contact with the liquid dispenser spout. Single serving condiments, sugar, cream, etc. If there is a second sitting, catering crew will clean the lunchroom prior to that second sitting. If reusable containers are used, which would be great for breakfast and lunch, they should be cleaned by an outside cleaning service. Craft service. Again, this is one way that this might work, and it follows very much the same way as lunch. The point here is certainly that we can't have a wagon full of subs with a crew rushing into a crowd around that wagon. So another system has to be put into place. This is one way that might work. Morning craft box will be assembled in the craft truck. Craft table person will transport from the pickup table to the craft table. And we would hope that a designated department and/or team crew member would be chosen from each team or crew, however you are on your particular production, breaking up the crew into smaller elements, that one person is picked to come and get the craft service. So they will wash or sanitize their hands, go to the craft table, pick up craft boxes for their crew and distribute. Again, there can't be a lot of people at the craft table. So we have to organize it so that, and this is one way of doing that, is picking a person and saying, you're the craft service picker-upper for the lighting department. Morning and afternoon substantials be treated the same way. So a crew member, designated crew person should be picking up all substantials or snacks or coffee or water. Coffee and water, designated crew member will pick up from the craft table. Hand washing procedures before and after pickup and distribution. If possible, foot pump dispensers, but for sure a spout guard. If a foot pumped dispenser is not available, on-off handle needs to be wiped after getting the coffee or the water. There should be a designated shopper for craft supplies. Signage and pylons will be set up at craft table to make sure physical distancing is maintained. If the craft table is set up in a tent, only 2 people allowed in the tent at a time. Washrooms, always my favorite subject. There's office washrooms, circus crew washrooms, individual trailer washrooms, portable toilets, both on set and on location, or at set, I should say, and public washrooms on location. So locations should stock the washroom with necessary paper towels, disinfectants, wipes, trash cans. A separate cleaning service or person should be hired to clean bathrooms before the start of work and on a continuous rotation throughout the day. A cleaning list should be in the washroom indicating specific duties and time each cleaning is performed. Portable toilets must be cleaned and serviced regularly. A designated cleaning service or person should be hired. And proper hand washing with soap and water for 20 seconds in a brand new, exciting way we just learned how to wash our hands is a must. Many infectious viruses are transferred from people not properly washing their hands after using the washroom. Remember to wipe any surfaces you touch, the toilet seat, toilet lid, toilet handle, the faucets, the door handle, and the outside door handle. Close the lid before flushing. There's a lot of new evidence coming up about that. Use the paper towel you have washed your hands with to open and close the door when you're leaving. Dispose of the towel in the trash can. That's going to be sitting right outside that door. Even if you do not use the bathroom, but you have entered the washroom, you must properly wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, as contact may have been made with a contaminated surface. And limit communal washrooms to 1 person at a time. It's hard not to bump into a person in a washroom, no matter how big the washroom is. Vendors. Make sure that you are aware of what procedures the vendor that you're dealing with has. Everyone that deals with vendors will need to research the protocols of the individual suppliers and adhere to them. The pickup drop-off policies, specific cleaning, and products that should be used. For example, White's, all visitors to White's rental facilities must make an appointment. Check in, complete a registration process, including a health check, prior to accessing the building, and facial coverings are required. So no more dropping in because you forgot something at White's, or sending a driver because you forgot something at White's. They do have a curbside pickup. I've included these protocols because they contain a lot of really great information about cleaning of equipment, location, lighting, grip, and camera equipment. And also just some good general tips and a lot of good information on different cleaners. Postings. Posters are being posted to remind us all of best practices, like correct hand washing procedures, proper hygiene, physical distancing guidelines, how to wear a mask, cleaning checklists in specific areas, washrooms. Manitoba posters are all available here, so please pay attention to these postings. Read and follow them, and please make sure that every public area has posters prominently on the walls so that people can, it just acts as a reminder to everybody that we have to do these things. On and offset cleaning in film production. A clean, disinfected, or sanitized job site, whether at the production office, construction shop, or on location during shooting and in prep, is achieved by having the awareness and information required to practice proper cleaning and sanitizing or disinfecting procedures that needs to occur on frequently touched surfaces. New habits. We need to take these best practices and we need to practice them the hand washing, wearing of a mask, physical distancing. But they need to become, ultimately, they need to become our new habits. We need to ingrain them in our everyday lives. Wipe frequently touched surfaces and objects. Wash or sanitize your hands. Wear your face mask and or face shield properly. Do not touch your mask or your face shield. Do not touch your face, the T-zone. And if you do, wash your hands or sanitize them. Practice physical distancing as much as possible. And above all else, if you are unwell, stay home. And if you are quite unwell, stay home and seek medical opinion as to whether you need a COVID test. Maybe you had the flu. Seek medical opinion. If you need a COVID test, get one so that you can get back to work. So if you're unwell, stay home. Being successful at keeping our film industry open is up to each individual. Incorporating these best practices into their lives, at home, at work, and at play. Thanks very much. This is the closing credits.
So hi, everyone. Adam here from FTM. Thank you again, Leslie, for the excellent presentation. So a couple of things. In the chat section, if everyone is able to write their first and last name, because we want to have your name as it appears on your certificate. And we just want to caution, it's possible that productions or producers or employers may request having some type of COVID training that people have undertaken. So we're trying to be proactive by ensuring that people have certificates of attendance at this session. And we're going to take Leslie's PowerPoint and we're going to PDF it, and we're hoping to send it out next week along with certificates. So we're projecting that's going to happen next week. But if you can ensure that you do give us your name, because as you see, if you look at the names, there are some folks that appear with phone numbers or pseudonyms. So please do ensure that we have your name. We're going to open this up to questions. And what I am going to ask is, people please not put your questions into the chat section, because it's difficult sometimes if I have to read your question, it helps to hear someone vocalize it. So what we're going to do is, when we get to the questions right now, can you please in the chat section put your hand up, because there's a function there of putting your hand up, and then I'll try to moderate the questions as best as possible. And I would like to first give the first question to the lady that actually tried to ask a question during the session, and I cut you off. So I'm sorry about that, but again, it was just difficult for the instructor to navigate a question just mid presentation. So the lady, I didn't grab your name, but you did try to ask a question, and you can certainly now come on the video and unmute yourself and feel free to ask away. I hope you're still.
Thanks. It's Marianne here, but my question was answered, so.
Oh, perfect.
It's all good.
Great. And you know, one other thing I did want to make mention of, it's pretty noteworthy. We've had really great attendance from a production company in town. Eagle Vision has sent so many of their employees and staff and senior management. I just wanted to commend the attendance. There's been a lot of people attending the sessions, obviously great representation as always with the unions, but thank you, Eagle Vision, for attending. And then also thank you for all of your work with helping on the protocols. I was involved in some of those meetings early on, and I just wanted to say thank you to Eagle Vision for that and for attending these sessions, all of your staff. And I think Merit has a lot of people from the company as well, Merit Motion Pictures, so that's nice to notice. Next question, who do we have that wants to ask something?
Hi, this is Chad Giesrecht. I have one little note I'd like to put out there.
Great.
I've been renting stuff for a couple of shows in town already that are going. And what I ended up doing in terms of the sanitizing part of it is I bought and set up some mobile UVC, like ultraviolet sanitizing light setups. And I find that even just to have that as something that you can use before your shift or in the evening, put it on a timer and kind of put your stuff in there overnight. At least it allows that level of clean to be able to be used too. And so far it's been working pretty good, and it's kind of experimental too, but it is proven to destroy genetic material after about an hour. So that's what I've been doing for all the rental stuff that I've been putting out there.
That sounds great, Chad. Is there any kind of stats on it? Like it's, you know,
There's a couple of companies. There's a place in Toronto and there's a place in Vancouver that are doing it now. And I've downloaded a bunch of the material data sheets on a lot of those products, and it seems like it's about, well, there's a few different claims, but it's all above 90% efficient for destroying that kind of thing. However, it's never a sure thing. It's never 100%, but just as another level on top of everything else, it just gives it another thing that we can use as a tool, right? So.
Would you, Chad, would you mind sharing? I think FTM is contemplating setting up a little sharing spot for people in the industry, just for those kinds of things. Would you mind sharing your data sheets with?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I'll download the info on the actual items that I ordered and that we're using.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And sure, yeah, I can definitely do that.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks for that info.
No problem. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Chad. That's great. Yeah, if you want to send something our way, we don't have that quite calibrated how we're going to go about doing that, but I've had so many people messaging us and suggesting it. So we might try to come up with some type of shared site. I think, Chad, you also made a very good point, and I think this is something, and Leslie probably made mention of this, all of these best practices are all calibrated to mitigate risk. And so when Leslie's going over this, and as you've said, we're trying our best to make sure that we can be as safe as possible. And so I think something like you've mentioned is very, very important to take note of. Arthur McKinnon has asked 3 questions, but Arthur, are you comfortable asking, maybe coming forward with one first, just on the video function? Ask your favorite out of the 3, and then we're going to try to, because we only have so much time to ask questions. If we could just try one question first and then get to sort of other questions that other people have. So would you be comfortable asking away?
Why don't you read them, Adam?
Okay, we'll go. Oh, Arthur, you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Great. Yeah, I had 3 quick questions. My first question is if there's a specific kind of standard pay for professional onset sanitizers.
Not to my knowledge, no. I mean,
Okay.
I think I know that's one place. I know Ellen's doing a dead drop clean out kind of thing at PPC. I think she hired Bison, so it would be whatever they are. There's, so I'm not sure about that.
Okay. And my other 2 questions were about conducting interviews for documentaries, if there's anything on that, like keeping 2 meters. And then if actors are in scenes together, are they required to keep 2 meters in the scene?
So here's where, well, the second question, that best practices, yes, they should definitely be used when you're conducting interviews or documentaries. Washing your hands should be, all the things that we've talked about should apply to, even if there's just 2 of you in a room. Those, all the things that we've talked about should apply. And actors, it'll be an interesting experiment as we all get back to shooting. Actors will basically be asked to do what they feel comfortable with. So if 2 actors are in a scene, and let's say they have to give each other a big hug and a kiss, if they feel comfortable doing that because they maybe know each other, trust each other, know each other's background, whatever the reason, then they would do it. But if they don't feel comfortable, then they would not be pressured or made to do it. So I think that's maybe how it's going to go. It's going to be a lot of give and take and discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Florence has a question. She put it in the chat section, but again, I'm just going to ask, could people please ask it via the video, because sometimes it's a bit hard to read someone's question, because it's just a lot more clean if it comes via video. So Florence, are you comfortable asking it via the video? Nope. Okay, I'll ask it for you. You want me to ask it for you? Okay, how effective is hot air gun hair dryer in sanitation?
I have not read anything that says it's effective at all. So I don't know anybody else out there. Have they heard anything about a hot air? I would think it's not the most effective way. I would think you should just spray some sanitizer on something and wipe it.
This is Sage Daniel talking. The hot air, like hair dryer, those are actually really unsanitary. They actually just
They
blow.
float around, I would think, right?
They blow
Yeah.
the germs around.
Yeah.
If it's a personal one or a one that's communal, say a hairdresser has one, it should be disinfected after every use. But yeah, no. Hot air.
That was my instinct too.
I think, Leslie, your point about that is that, you know, using sanitizers, cleaning agents, those are the things that we want to go to here.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's obviously your first go-to is using the cleaning agents and the sanitizers for things. Not a bad question. Good question to ask.
I think too, if we look at the best practices we talked about today, and then, you know, Chad with his UVC ultraviolet light thing, that's a layer on top. And yesterday, Corby came up with these chlorinating, or brought into the discussion, chlorinating foggers that I guess also are being used in gyms. So that's another layer. But at base, these best practices that we've talked about today have to be done. These other things are another level, and some productions will do them, some, I don't know. But the 5 we've talked about today are the ones that every production will have to have happen. Excuse me, all the time.
Any other questions?
Oh, yeah,
I definitely want to make sure people have the chance. Is that Gordon?
Yes.
Hey,
Hello.
Gordon, nice to see you.
Thank you. Hey, even before the whole COVID came down, I was always sanitizing the office, almost like a nutcase, with hydrogen peroxide. Comes this little thing like that. How effective is that nowadays with COVID? Hydrogen peroxide spray.
I have read just in passing, but I would really look at like the data sheets, check on Health Canada's site.
Yeah.
Health Canada has a very good site that says the active agents in each product. So you can take a product, a named product, and what Health Canada has is these are the top, you know,
Right.
it's going to have this, 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 and this, so it's kind of not effective.
Right.
Evaluation. I'm also going to ask everyone, we are collecting evaluations that we're going to put in the chat section. And can everyone please fill out the evaluation? We're still going here. We still have some questions. Paula has a question, and Pina. So we'll go Paula and Pina. That's great. 2 of my
Perfect.
favorites back to back. Go ahead, Paula.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay, just a general, fairly large scale question. And first, thanks very much. It's been really thorough information and very helpful, and I'm glad so many people are taking part in it. Just wondering if there's been any discussion in terms of, you know, not lowering expectations, but adjusting directors' expectations of how long of a day we have, how maybe a longer shooting schedule to allow for us to be doing all this cleaning and all the steps that we haven't had to do before, or, you know, in terms of all of a sudden they want to change their minds and have something different that we don't have there and have to run it to set, you know, that now still has to go through this cleaning process. Like, we're just struggling a little bit to understand how the expectations will be adjusted to meet the demands that we now are required to, you know, new demands for us to make everything safe?
Well, it's a really good question, Paula, and I think every project's going to have its own answer in a way. The certainly the production guide that's come out from the producers committee and different, I can't remember all the people. So, but it says that producers that sign on to it are going to stick to an 11-hour day. Now, most series, you know, usually do, say like A Burden of Truth, we pretty much stick to an 11-hour day. But certainly features and everything else don't. So, and the purpose there is to try to not get these big long days, for one thing, to overtire people in this process. But I think, I was talking to Doug Mitchell the other day, and he's doing a project right now, he's in prep. He was talking to his counterpart who is doing a project for the same company, but they are shooting right now. And he said they started out, you know, first shoot day, and the whole time in prep they talked about it's just not going to happen. Like it's just going to take too long, and we're going to be shooting an extra week. And they said they went for the first day, and at the end of the day they said, yeah, we told you it's going to take too long, and it's going to, you know, we're not going to make it. But then the second day was a little better, and the third day was a little better. And I think it will take longer, absolutely no doubt. And producers are putting in money. They're putting in, I looked at a budget today and has a COVID line in it. And there's a lot of money there to hire people and to take care of longer days, that type of not being able to accomplish something in the day given. So I think we're going to have to see how it works. But I think as we develop and take these best practices, and they become habits, and they become second nature, it will speed up. You know, it's still going to be extra, you know, but I think we'll fall someplace in the middle between disaster and, you know, it's the same as always. I don't think either of those will be true. I think it'll fall someplace in the middle of those. And producers, I know, certainly producers that I've been talking to, know and have been talking to their writers to say, you know, we have to write within the confines of this new world the way it is right now. And going to be talking to the directors to do the same. So we as a crew can only do what is possible to do. And I think everybody's ready to step off the cliff, if you will, and kind of figure it out. But we will have to do it together. I think that's really important. And communication is going to be key to all of this. If we're not talking to each other, if you have a problem in wardrobe, or Pina has a problem in the makeup hair trailer, and we're not talking to each other about it, that's gonna set us back. I think we'll have to open up the lines of communication and like I say, not to point fingers, just to keep us all safe. I don't know if that answers your question, Paula. I'm sorry I start to ramble.
Yeah, no, that does. That's great. It's good information, and I think we'll just all have to make adjustments and work through it. So that's great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Paula. That was excellent, excellent question, excellent sharing. We'll go to Pina Robinson next.
Hey, Pina.
Hi, Leslie. How are you? So good to see you.
You too.
Hope the family's all well, for everyone, actually.
Yeah, terrific.
Good. Just a couple of things too, and it's great to hear the answers to these questions, and certainly Paula's question was highly valuable for us kind of at base camp and how we have to run things. So there was the talk about the blow dryer. So essentially the thing about the blow dryer that can be sanitized and cleaned is only the exterior and the cord, which is something easily done with a Lysol wipe or whatever. Of course, nothing goes into the dryer as far as into the cavity, so there should be no infection there, just to put people's minds at ease regarding that. So it's only coming out. Now it does blow around whatever's in the air, which has been presented not only here but in other areas, that might be considered unsafe. And actually, when salons first opened, we were told that we were not even allowed to blow dry hair. Now, of course, that's not realistic nor reasonable. So I think it was Chad that mentioned something about the fogger, or somebody said something about a fogger.
There's a fogger and there's these UVC ultraviolet lights.
Right. And I know, like, and I don't know if this is something that can be used in this case, but in the situation of I had mold in the house several years ago, and it was a green company that came in, and they literally can spray in the cabinets. Your pets can be home, so it's extremely non-toxic. But what it does is it sort of kills all of what was in the air. So if that's something that we could do on a regular basis in the hair makeup trailer, then it sort of ensures that blowing around air, it's just clean air. There's nothing,
Yeah, I think that's certainly actually something I was going to bring up to Kyle, and just because on burden, because it's I think it is something we need to think about in
Right.
those confined areas like that, or like in fitting rooms and
Yeah.
those places where it's not the ventilation isn't bad, but it's confined and there's people in
Right.
it. So I think we need to figure out something like
About
that.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, I might look into that also. And then the other thing was in regards to the hydrogen peroxide. So, and I'm not sure about costumes and how they feel about it. I know on my end, things like hydrogen peroxide and the Clorox bleach, those kinds of cleaning things in the hair makeup trailer, at least on the hair side, they actually lighten what they touch. Like if you sprayed bleach and water, that's going to lighten something, which is not good for us. So so I've been using just 99 isopropyl alcohol. I use a little bit of the Thieves essential oil in there, so it now has a good smell. It doesn't kill your hands. And then I think Lysol wipes would be, for me personally, the wipe of choice, because it does kill 99.9, but it doesn't lighten any kind of fabric or any, like you couldn't use it on anything cloth or,
Well, I think, someone from Wardrobe put in the chat yesterday about using Lysol for fabric.
And that doesn't work for them?
No, it was.
It does.
Like
Okay.
Like a spray, right?
Right.
Spray and hang kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I guess it wouldn't lighten it, wouldn't change the color of it, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think that, just to answer, is it Dodie? Did I pronounce it correct? His question in regards to hydrogen peroxide. So
Well, thank you very much. Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, Pina.
Thank you guys very much.
We have a question here in the chat to me. Again, it's preferable, everyone, if you can ask directly, but I'll ask it. Will there be a limit on the amount of background on set? What happens when they need 100 or 50 people at once?
Well, certainly, producers are the boss of the show. So, but the producers I've talked to have said that writers just aren't writing in big extra counts. They can't. So I think it will be a while before we see any big extra counts. If there's extras and they're doing pass-bys on the street or that kind of thing, I think that will be acceptable. Again, you're not in close contact for a long period of time, but to sit, 200 people in a theater shoulder to shoulder for 3 hours is something I don't think is going to happen for quite a while, in my opinion. I'll say in my opinion, so nobody.
Yeah. Any other questions at all from anyone? Again, we have the survey in the chat section, so if people can please fill that out. But is there any more questions from anyone? You can put your hand up or pull your video down and feel free to ask.
Hey, actually, sorry, Adam, it's Andrew Forbes. How are you guys doing?
Good. Nice to
How's
see
everybody
you.
doing?
Good.
Yeah, I actually I'm sorry, I don't want to turn my video on because I'm renovating my office. It's a disaster zone right now, so
Sure.
we're saving everybody if that's cool. I just had a question actually specifically, if I can launch off of Leslie, what you just said about close distance for prolonged periods of time. I did a day with a very, very fast documentary, and this is kind of coming back to Arthur's question as well, I think, about documentary recreations and that kind of thing. We hit a thing that kind of worked for everybody, and it was sort of in line with, I mean, in terms of keeping everybody feeling relatively comfortable. We didn't have a massive cast, but we did have actors that we wanted to keep in relatively, like, within that 6 foot distance.
Mhm.
And our workaround, if you could call it that, I'm using air quotes that you can't see, was that we had masks for our performers that we supplied, like the disposable masks, and we wore them during rehearsal. And then once we actually went to roll, we just dropped them for rehearsal, but everybody held on to them and we just put them right back on as soon as the rehearsal was done. Crew was covered, like it was just the director and I. So we were wearing masks the entire time the crew was in the workspace with us. Or rather, sorry, the cast was in with us. But in terms of the on-camera cast, we tried to just give them some coverage and just knew that it gave us something that I think, I don't know if that was just I don't know if that's a placebo or not, though, I think is the only concern I've got. And it's going to wreak havoc on Pina's job in terms of keeping makeup clean.
Well, I think someone, and I haven't physically seen this, but someone was telling me they found a face shield that is just a clip-on, like glasses.
Yeah.
So there's a face shield and you just put them around your ears.
Yeah.
Which is probably something that, wouldn't be as invasive as actually putting on a mask that's going to rub on your makeup and stuff.
Cool.
And then that's, and also if you were, if you're an actor and you're playing, and it's your close-up and you're playing an intimate scene with somebody who you don't want to cross the room necessarily, and he's going to be pretty close. Mm-hmm. If that off-camera person was wearing a shield, you could at least see their face, right?
Totally.
I mean, it's pretty hard acting to people with masks on. So I think some form of face shield is going to be a good compromise in a lot of areas for off-camera lines, for that type of thing. So there's a lot of things to think about. But actors will certainly have times when they can't physically distance. It's a nature, unless the show is about COVID, it's you can't have people standing at either end of the room yelling at each other for the entire show. So it's going to depend a lot on actors, their comfort level, and I think their knowledge of the person they're playing against. If it's a stranger, they might be very uncomfortable. If it's somebody they know for years and they know their habits, they know they might be very comfortable playing an intimate scene with them. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes.
Cool. Well, that's great. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Andrew. Any other questions from anyone? All right. Well, I think that's it. Leslie, thank you again for all of your work. You've done a ton of these.
Well, thanks, Adam, for the support. And I really want to send out a big thank you to MTech, and particularly Melanie Olford, who provided all this great information and sat with me for many, many hours going through what the film industry does. So MTech was a great partner. So thanks for putting that together, Adam.
Absolutely. Yeah, we really appreciated all the help. And thank you again to all the other partners that have been involved as well. DGC, IATSE, OSM, and Manitoba Film and Music, Province of Manitoba. I hope I'm not, City of Winnipeg, Kenny and Monique, of course. And that's everything. ACTRA is going to be doing some things as well. So thanks everyone for attending. And if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out at any time, please feel free to contact me. And thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.